Confidence is not about being the loudest person in the room. It's not about dominating conversations, winning arguments, or forcing people to notice you. That kind of noise is not confidence, it's compensation. Real confidence is quiet. It doesn't rush to explain itself. It doesn't perform for approval. It doesn't need to be validated in real time. It moves slowly, steadily, with intention. And the most powerful form of confidence kind people feel before you ever speak comes from a simple truth most people never learn. When you stop reacting to everything, nothing controls you. Most people live in reaction mode without realizing it. They react to criticism and immediately feel smaller. They react to rejection and begin to doubt themselves. They react to praise and suddenly feel worthy again. They react to other people's moods, opinions, expectations, and emotional swings. And every reaction costs them something. A little energy, a little clarity, a little control. Over time, this constant reacting shapes who they become. They grow predictable, easy to provoke, easy to manipulate, easy to pull off balance. They don't notice it happening, but their nervous system is always on alert, always adjusting, always trying to stay acceptable in the eyes of others. But there is another way to live. A quieter way, a steadier way. A way where your inner state is no longer dictated by what happens around you. A way where you can receive feedback without collapsing, face uncertainty without panic, and move through pressure without losing yourself. This is not about pretending to be confident. It's not about motivation, hype, or bravado. It's about becoming unshakable. Take a moment here. Slow your breathing. Let your shoulders drop. Let the noise in your mind settle. And listen, not to be impressed, not to be inspired, but to understand. One of the first places confidence quietly disappears is in the habit of over-explaining. People explain why they were late. They explain why they made a decision. They explain why they feel the way they feel. They explain their boundaries, their limits, their preferences. Often, no one even asked. They do it because silence feels uncomfortable, because stillness feels exposed, because somewhere along the way, they learned that being understood feels safer than being firm. Over-explaining is often mistaken for politeness. In reality, it's usually insecurity trying to protect itself. When you explain yourself too much, you send a message without realizing it. I need you to agree with me so I can feel okay. I need permission to stand by my choice. Confident people don't live like that. They understand something subtle but important. Their worth does not require a defense. Their decisions do not need a jury. This doesn't mean being rude, dismissive, or cold. It means knowing when enough is enough. A simple statement, delivered calmly, carries more authority than a long explanation wrapped in anxiety. I decided this was right for me, and then silence. No justifying, no backtracking, no filling the space with nervous words. Silence lets confidence breathe. At first, this will feel uncomfortable. Your body will want to jump in and soften the moment, to add context, to reassure, to be liked. Resist that urge. Every time you choose not to over-explain, you reclaim a little power. Every time you allow silence to stand, your presence grows heavier, steadier, more grounded. People feel that shift immediately even if they can't explain why. Confidence does not begin in public. It begins in private. It begins with the voice inside your head, the one that speaks when no one else is listening. The voice that narrates your mistakes, interprets feedback, and decides what everything means. That voice is always talking. And whether you notice it or not, it shapes how you move through the world. If your inner voice is harsh, doubtful, or constantly critical, it leaks into everything. Your posture tightens. Your tone becomes defensive. Your decisions hesitate. You might appear confident on the surface, but underneath there is tension. Second, guessing. A quiet fear of being exposed. But when your inner voice is calm and steady, it becomes an anchor, a place you can return to when things get uncertain. Most people get this part backward. They wait for success to give them confidence. They wait for approval to feel secure. They wait for proof before they believe in themselves. But confidence does not follow success. Success follows confidence. You don't wait for life to prove you're capable. You decide to treat yourself like someone who is capable. And slowly, your actions begin to rise to meet that decision. Your mind believes repetition. Whatever you tell yourself consistently becomes familiar. And whatever feels familiar starts to feel true. If you repeat weakness long enough, you shrink. If you repeat strength long enough, you expand. This is not fake positivity. It's disciplined self-respect. Instead of saying, I can't handle this, you say, this is difficult, but I'll figure it out. Instead of saying, I always mess things up, you say, every mistake teaches me something. The way you speak to yourself shapes your nervous system. And when your nervous system feels supported, confidence stops being forced. It becomes natural. And this is where the real shift begins. As confidence deepens, something else begins to change. You stop needing approval to feel stable. Most people don't realize how much of their emotional life is tied to being liked. A comment lands well, and they feel good. A message goes unanswered, and they start questioning themselves. A bit of praise lifts them up. A bit of criticism knocks them down. Their inner state rises and falls with external reactions. That isn't confidence. That's dependency. Approval feels good, but depending on it comes at a cost. When your confidence relies on other people's reactions, you hand them control. They don't even have to try. Their opinions begin to move you without permission. The truth is simple, even if it's uncomfortable. No one owes you approval. No one is responsible for validating your worth. The moment you accept that, something loosens inside you. You stop performing. You stop shaping yourself to fit every room. You stop measuring your value by how people respond. This doesn't make you cold. It makes you honest. Some people want the change. They may call you distant. They may call you arrogant. They may feel uncomfortable around your steadiness. That's not a sign you're doing something wrong. It's a sign you've stopped bending. People often enjoy it when you seek their approval, but they respect you when you don't need it. Another shift happens when confidence grows quieter. You stop feeling the urge to react emotionally to everything. Most people believe strength is about responding quickly, defending yourself, correcting others, making sure your side is heard. But real strength often shows up as restraint. When someone criticizes you and you pause instead of reacting, control stays with you. When someone tries to provoke you and you don't take the bait, your power stays intact. When silence replaces impulse, clarity appears. Silence is not weakness. It's discipline. It shows that your emotions belong to you, not to the moment, not to another person. And when you finally do choose to speak, your words carry more weight. Because you don't waste them. People listen differently when you speak less but with intention. They sense that your words are chosen, not leaked. Before you ever speak, though, something else has already communicated for you. Your body, your posture, your pace, your stillness. People trust what they see more than what they hear. You can say all the right things, but if your body looks uncertain, your message won't land. Confidence shows up in how you stand, how you sit, how you move through space. When you carry yourself with intention, others feel it immediately, not consciously, instinctively. Stand steady, slow down your movements, make eye contact without rushing away. Your body trains your mind, and your mind follows your body's lead. Another quiet transformation happens when you stop living in reaction mode. Most people let the world set their tone. Something happens, and they respond automatically. Someone speaks, and they adjust. A situation changes, and they scramble. Reaction always puts you behind. Leadership begins when you pause, when you take a breath, when you decide how you want to respond instead of letting the moment decide for you. Leadership doesn't start with controlling others. It starts with controlling yourself. Calm is contagious. So is chaos. When you stay steady, others often slow down without realizing why. Your presence begins to regulate the room. This kind of confidence doesn't need attention. It creates gravity, and gravity pulls people toward it naturally. But confidence like this is not built in comfort. It's built where things feel uncertain, where your edge is tested, where your old habits want to take over. Discomfort is not a sign you're failing. It's a sign you're stretching. Every time you lean into discomfort instead of avoiding it, you collect evidence. Evidence that you can handle more than you thought. Evidence that fear does not control you. Confidence grows from proof, not affirmation. The more evidence you gather, the quieter your doubt becomes. And slowly, without forcing it, you begin to trust yourself. Not because everything is easy, but because you know you can handle what isn't. As trust in yourself grows, something subtle but powerful starts to happen. You begin to speak less but say more. Most people talk too much because they are uncomfortable with silence. They rush to fill gaps. They over-explain. They keep talking so they don't disappear. But silence is not emptiness. Silence is space, and space creates authority. When you slow down your speech, when you pause before responding, when you allow silence to exist without rushing to fill it, people lean in. They sense that you're not scrambling, that you're not seeking approval, that you're choosing your words. Few words spoken calmly carry more weight than many words spoken nervously. This doesn't mean becoming quiet out of fear. It means speaking with intention. Listening becomes just as powerful as speaking. When you truly listen, you gather information. You understand tone, emotion, and motivation. and when you finally respond, your words land more precisely. People often reveal far more than they intend when you give them space to talk. And while they speak, you remain grounded, observant, and in control. This is a form of confidence most people never develop because they are too busy trying to be heard. Another shift happens when you start detaching from outcomes. Most people tie their confidence to results. If things go well, they feel strong. If things fall apart, they feel broken. Their sense of worth rises and falls with outcomes they can't fully control. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop attaching your identity to the result. You focus on what you can control: your effort, your preparation, your integrity, and you release the rest. When you detach from outcomes, fear loses leverage. You stop hesitating. You stop overthinking. You stop needing guarantees before you act. Ironically, this is when performance improves. When you're no longer strangled by the need for a specific result, you move more freely, more clearly, more confidently. You've already survived every disappointing outcome in your life so far, every failure, every rejection, every setback. You're still here. That's proof you can adapt. This understanding makes you harder to manipulate. Rewards can't control you. Threats lose their power. Approval stops being currency. Another layer of confidence forms when you begin setting boundaries without apology. Boundaries are not walls. They are lines that protect your time, energy, and focus. Most people struggle with boundaries because they confuse them with rejection. They say yes when they mean no. They overextend. They tolerate disrespect to avoid discomfort. Each time they do, something inside them weakens. Saying no is not selfish. It's honest. No is a complete sentence. It doesn't need justification. It doesn't need a long explanation. At first, setting boundaries feels uncomfortable. Guilt shows up. Fear of being misunderstood creeps in. But over time, something surprising happens. People begin to take you more seriously. They learn where the line is. They adjust. And the ones who don't respect your boundaries reveal themselves quickly. That clarity alone is powerful. As boundaries strengthen, confidence stabilizes. You stop feeling drained. You stop resenting others. You start showing up with more presence. Confidence also reveals itself most clearly under pressure. Anyone can appear confident when life is calm. Real confidence shows up when things go wrong, when tension rises, when plans fall apart, when emotions run high. Most people speed up in chaos. They panic. They react. They raise their voices. But the person who slows down stands out immediately. Calm in chaos feels rare because it is rare. When you slow your breathing, lower your voice, and steady your movements, you signal control. Not dominance. Control. Others begin to mirror that calm without realizing it. You don't need to have all the answers. Your steadiness alone creates trust. This kind of presence can't be faked. It's built through practice again, and a guiduntal calm becomes your default. And slowly, you realize something important. You're no longer trying to appear confident. You simply are. As this steadiness becomes familiar, confidence starts to feel less like something you put on and more like something you live from. You stop trying to manage how you're perceived. You stop adjusting yourself to fit every situation. You stop scanning rooms for signals of approval or rejection. Your attention turns inward, not in a self-absorbed way, but in a grounded one. You begin to trust your own judgment. That trust changes how you move through decisions. Most people hesitate because they are afraid of being wrong. They want certainty before they act. They want reassurance before they commit. But certainty doesn't come before action. It comes from action. Confidence grows when you make decisions and stand by them, even when outcomes are uncertain. You learn to say, "This is my choice," without needing to defend it. You accept responsibility for the result without tying it to your worth. This creates a powerful internal shift. You no longer outsource your confidence to circumstances. You generate it from within. Another transformation happens when you train instead of hoping. Confidence is not built on positive thinking alone. It's built on competence. When you know you've put in the work, when you've practiced, prepared, and repeated, you stop guessing yourself. Skill creates certainty. Think about anything you've ever learned well. At first, there was doubt, awkwardness, mistakes, but repetition changed everything. What once felt difficult became natural. What once required effort became automatic. That's how confidence is earned. Not through hype, through repetition. When you train consistently, your nervous system relaxes. It knows what to do. It trusts itself under pressure. This kind of confidence can't be taken from you. Approval may disappear. Circumstances may change, but skill stays. As competence grows, fear shrinks. You stop avoiding challenges because you trust your ability to adapt. You stop fearing failure because you've failed before and survived. This resilience becomes part of who you are. Another quiet strength emerges when you learn to reframe rejection. Most people experience rejection as a verdict, a judgment on their value, a reason to retreat. But rejection is not an ending. It's information. Every rejection points to something. Timing, alignment, skill, direction. When you stop personalizing it, you start using it. People who fear rejection stay cautious. People who accept it grow resilient. They take risks, they stretch, they step forward even when outcomes aren't guaranteed. And each rejection they face sharpens them instead of shrinking them. Rejection stops being something to avoid and becomes something to move through. This changes how you show up. You stop needing every interaction to go perfectly. You stop protecting your ego at all costs. You stop playing small to avoid discomfort. Instead, you focus on forward motion. Another layer of confidence develops when you stop clinging to outcomes. Attachment creates tension. Detachment creates freedom. When you obsess over results, your mind tightens. You hesitate. You second guess. But when you focus on effort instead of outcome, your actions become cleaner. You show up fully. You do your best. Then you let go. This doesn't make you passive. It makes you resilient. Whatever happens, you adapt. And the more you trust yourself to adapt, the less fear controls your choices. This is where confidence starts to feel durable. Not fragile, not conditional, but steady. You're no longer confident only when things go well. You're confident because you know you can handle whatever doesn't. And that knowledge changes everything. As all of this settles in, confidence reaches its deepest form. Not the kind that tries to impress. Not the kind that needs to announce itself. But the kind that no longer depends on anything outside of you to feel stable. Most people don't realize how much of their life is driven by need. They need approval to feel secure. They need attention to feel relevant. They need reassurance to feel safe. They need success to feel worthy. And because they chase. They chase validation in conversations. They chase praise in their work. They chase outcomes they believe will finally make them feel complete. But need always creates tension. And tension always weakens confidence. When you need approval, you give others leverage over your emotions. When you need validation, you become reactive to opinions. When you need a specific outcome, fear quietly takes control of your decisions. This is why need is fragile. The strongest confidence appears when that need begins to dissolve. This doesn't mean you stop caring. It doesn't mean you lose ambition. It doesn't mean you disconnect from people or goals. It means your sense of worth no longer hangs on what happens next. You still pursue meaningful goals, but you're not desperate for the result. You still value relationships, but you don't cling to them. You still enjoy success, but you're not owned by it. When you live this way, loss loses its power. Money can come and go without shaking your identity. Opinions can change without destabilizing you. People can leave without collapsing your sense of self. Because who you are is no longer negotiable. This is why people who need nothing are so difficult to manipulate. They can't be bribed with praise. They can't be pressured by threats. They can't be controlled by approval or rejection. Their confidence doesn't spike when things go well, and it doesn't crash when things don't. It stays level. That steadiness creates a quiet authority that people feel immediately. Not because you dominate, but because you're grounded. Not because you're loud, but because you're complete. At this stage, something subtle happens in how you move through the world. You stop trying to convince people of anything. You stop explaining who you are. You stop defending your choices. You listen more. You speak when it matters. You allow silence to exist without discomfort. There's no rush anymore. Urgency fades when you stop needing outcomes to validate you. You act from choice, not pressure. From alignment, not fear. This is the confidence leaders care not because they want control, but because they have self-control. And here's the most important part. This confidence is not something you wake up with one day. It's something you build slowly, deliberately, over time. It's built every time you pause instead of reacting. Every time you stay silent instead of explaining yourself. Every time you trust your judgment instead of seeking reassurance. Every time you stay calm instead of being pulled into chaos. These moments may feel small, but they compound. And over time, they change how you see yourself. You start to realize you're not as fragile as you once believed. You don't break under pressure the way you used to. You don't collapse at uncertainty the way you once did. You begin to trust yourself not because life is easy, but because you've handled difficulty before. That trust becomes the foundation of real confidence. You still feel emotion. You still care deeply. But emotions no longer control you. You can feel anger without exploding. You can feel fear without freezing. You can feel doubt without obeying it. You experience emotions without becoming them. This is what it means to be unshakable. Confidence, at its core, is not about being fearless. Fear will always appear. Confidence is about being steady when fear shows. It's about staying grounded when uncertainty arrives. It's about choosing your response instead of surrendering it. It's not about winning every moment. It's about not being destroyed by the moments you don't. When you stop reacting to everything, life stops owning you. You gain space between stimulus and response. You gain clarity instead of impulse. You gain choice instead of compulsion. And in that space, something powerful emerges, a calm presence, a grounded energy, a certainty that doesn't need to be explained. This is not the confidence that shouts. This is the confidence that endures. Carry this with you not as an idea, but as a practice. Not as a performance, but as a way of living. Let your steadiness speak for you. Let your restraint show your strength. Let your calm become your signature. Because when you no longer react to everything, nothing controls you. And that is the quiet, dangerous power of true confidence. Confidence is not something you add to yourself. It's something you uncover by removing what weakens you. The biggest illusion people live under is that confidence comes from success, approval, or recognition. In reality, confidence grows when you stop giving your power away to things you cannot control. The first and most important takeaway is this: reaction is the enemy of confidence. Every time you react impulsively to criticism, to praise, to rejection, to pressure, you hand control to the outside world. You become adjustable, predictable, easy to influence. Real confidence begins when you create space between what happens and how you respond. That pause is where power lives. Another critical takeaway is the danger of over-explaining. When you constantly justify yourself, you communicate insecurity without saying a word. You signal that your choices need approval to stand. Strong confidence doesn't argue for its existence. It doesn't defend every decision. It knows when silence carries more authority than explanation. Confidence is not loud certainty. It's quiet conviction. Your inner voice matters more than any external validation. The way you speak to yourself becomes the way you show up in the world. If your inner dialogue is harsh, doubting, or apologetic, no amount of success will make you feel secure. But when you train your inner voice to be calm, grounded, and supportive, confidence stops feeling forced. It becomes natural. Self-respect is the foundation of everything. Without it, confidence is just performance. Every small promise you keep to yourself strengthens trust. Every boundary you hold reinforces your worth. Every time you walk away from what drains you, you reinforce your value. Confidence grows when you treat yourself like someone who matters. One of the most powerful lessons is learning to kill the need for approval. Approval feels good, but dependence on it is expensive. When your confidence rises and falls with other people's opinions, you lose emotional independence. True confidence arrives when approval becomes optional, not necessary. People may enjoy it when you seek their validation, but they respect you when you don't need it. Silence is a form of strength most people never develop. You don't need to respond to every comment. You don't need to defend yourself against every opinion. You don't need to react emotionally to every provocation. Silence protects your energy. Silence sharpens your presence. Silence makes your words heavier when you choose to speak. Your body speaks before your mouth ever does. Posture, pace, eye contact, stillness, these signals tell the world whether you are grounded or unsure. When your body communicates certainty, your words don't have to work as hard. Confidence is felt long before it is heard. Leadership begins the moment you stop reacting and start choosing. Reaction puts you behind. Choice puts you in control. You don't need a title to lead. You need emotional discipline. Discomfort is not a problem, it's training. Confidence is built in the moments that feel uncomfortable, uncertain, and slightly intimidating. Every time you lean into discomfort instead of avoiding it, you collect evidence of your own strength. Confidence is not built on affirmations, it's built on proof. Speak less, mean more. The most confident people don't rush to fill silence. They listen, they observe, they choose their words carefully. When you stop talking to prove your worth, your words gain authority. Rejection is not a verdict on your value. It's feedback, redirection, and refinement. People who fear rejection stay small. People who accept it become resilient. Every rejection you survive strengthens your nervous system and weakens fear's grip. Detach from outcomes. Do the work. Give your best effort. Release the result. When outcomes stop defining you, fear loses leverage. You act more freely, think more clearly, and perform better, not because you don't care, but because you're no longer strangled by the need for a specific result. Boundaries are confidence in action. No is a complete sentence. You don't need to apologize for protecting your time, energy, or peace. The people who respect you will honor your boundaries. The people who don't were never aligned with you in the first place. Calm in chaos is one of the rarest and most respected traits. When others panic, slow down. When others rush, breathe. When others lose control, stay centered. Calmness creates trust. Steadiness creates authority. Competence builds certainty. Confidence grows when skill becomes second nature. When you train, practice, and repeat, your nervous system relaxes. You stop guessing yourself. Skill cannot be taken from you, even when circumstances change. The highest form of confidence is living as if you need nothing. Not because you don't enjoy success, connection, or growth, but because you're no longer dependent on them to feel whole.